got initially started, so I'm trying to think of where we left off. You basically told me what you've been doing and a little background. So have you done development before?
So coming to the development, it's not like very huge on hands-on development, but like in a very small, just like operation side, I have done a bit of development.
Okay. And how strong are your skills in scripting languages? Bash.
Okay. So coming to the scripting language, well, I have like I can tell I have a extensive experience working in the Bash and the shell scripting. So where I can tell you, like I have created the multiple scripts for different requirements, like over a period of time. And the most recent script that I have written was a kind of a health check script that was based out in the shell, and that was for the Docker Swarm based container service health checkup. So there are like multiple layers to it. So one that is actually checks the container running as a part of the service, and if in that case they are not, it is responsible for going to the Swarm node and targeting the and triggering the service update using the Docker Swarm command line utility and updating and and sending the request to stakeholders about that.
And how much Python?
So when it comes to the Python side, like when I work with Equifax, we developed a total framework which will be totally a CAP security framework there. But well, like I can say, like I have been using Python for the Lambda function specifically. So like we have different engagements and the different requirements for the for to write these Lambda functions. So one of the main cases, like there are users that kind of Python based on the Lambda functions was image optimization. So our application has a certain requirement that is supposed to be customized from the image standpoint for certain geographical specific user bases, like based on the headers that we are receiving the requests. So we customize our page for that. This Python based Lambda functions was created by me. So I have similar engagements also. Like I have worked on like a Lambda, few other Lambda functions, or creation of the Lambda functions.
Okay. So let me ask you some just generic type questions. So with an ALB, or excuse me, what's the difference between an ALB and a network ALB?
Okay. So well, the network load balancer is basically for the TCP traffic extensively. However, the application load balancer is for the HTTP and HTTPS based web traffic. So if you are dealing with the web application which requires a certain customization based on the board like HTTP and HTTPS like 443 and like 80 ports. Like if in case any customization of context based routing is required, that's where you use the application load balancer for the web request. And if you have very straightforward TCP load balancing requirement, you will be using network load balancer. So that's the main difference between them.
So the different application layers within. So whether it's a layer 7 or layer 4 type of thing.
So like ALB is a layer like so it's exactly like they were like they operate the different application layer or different layers. So application load balancer works on the application layer. However, network load balancer basically works at the network layer. So okay, you are asking.
You're answering my question. So yeah. Okay. Have you used transit gateway?
So okay, transit gateways. Yeah, I have been used the transit gateways in AWS. So majorly we have been using the
why would you use them, and what's the purpose of implementing a transit gateway?
So yeah, so here we have been majorly using these transit gateways for connecting the different VPCs with on-prem environment. So in one of the module, like we have our hybrid environment, which has some of the workloads being hosted on the on-prem environment and off of the workload in the AWS environment. So like that's where we actually use this AWS Transit Gateways for connecting these two distinct networks using like a central hub.
Yep, good answers. Tell me about your background with databases. How much have you done just from a infrastructure standpoint, and then SQL?
Okay. Okay. So, well, I have been working on the few databases from the troubleshooting and the operation side. So, like we have a separate database engineers like who majorly work on the schema alterations and designing of the databases. But when it comes to the databases, I worked on the Aurora database RDS. Like if you are talking about with the respect of RDS explicitly, so like we are currently using the Aurora clusters with the multiple replica sets. So I have troubleshoot the database and application integration issues. I do troubleshoot database like other issues like wait timeouts or like deadlock errors in the database or the connection or the connection timeout in database or working with the long running queries, debugging those kinds of scenario on the in the day-to-day basis. Like, and if there's in case any certain alteration or alterations are required in some tables, like I do that as well, where it by helping the dev teams with those requirements that what they have. So majorly working on operation side of the databases. So like have the most experience on that part.
So you're good at looking at SQL scripts or
Yes.
SQL language and saying, okay, are you able to troubleshoot when there's a
Right.
missing text or something like that?
Yes, right.
And what tools do you use to do that?
So for that, like we majorly use Athena for the purpose, as well as like different query, well for the different querying, specifically checking. But when you talk about the tools for debugging SQL specific scripts, that is that's what you are asking, right?
Yeah.
So
What tools of AWS have you used to assist with troubleshooting like that?
for the AWS, in AWS, so basically like we do use like AWS CloudWatch for monitoring this database monitoring. But apart from this, like I have been using the SolarWind database performance analyzers for the SQL as well. For the monitoring purpose, like I had experience working with the Datadog SQL Server monitoring also.
Insight at all?
Which one?
Insight?
So inside like SQL, inside like SQL scripts and when it when you take to probably evaluate insight, so like at that point in time, like I guess, like okay, when it when it come to probably AWS Insight, like so like mostly like Data Studio or like
if you haven't used it, that's a fine answer. I'm just curious. So I'd rather have just say no, I'm not familiar with it versus trying to come up with it. So the AWS has a ton of tools, and there's a bunch of different tools from that any operations persons can use. So if you don't have that, that's a fine answer, and I'm good with those answers. So I prefer to just say, hey, I don't know that, or I'm not familiar with it, than to try to figure out and answer off the fly, because to me, then it's like, well, you're making up stuff. When I say that, I'd rather just say, hey, I don't have that. So, okay. Let's see. SNS, SQS, how are they used and why do you use them?
so like SNS and SQS it's like SQS is generally like we use for the simple querying service. So like therefore for any kind of messaging queue service requirements, like WeChats that changes or store the messages between the software for the software component, like we use them. So like I have experience working with this a couple of engagements with SQS, like wherein the application, wherein our application has a certain requirement with it. So like there are the multiple layers of our application in the front end, and then they're in a data hub. So in order to communicate from the front end the data, we are using the messaging queue services. So there we are then there we are employing SQS to send, store, and like receive the messages based on the component volumes, that we receive instead of losing the messages during the latency time.
So let's say you were assisting the development team with SQS, and they're subscribing from it, and they're trying to go do something, and the endpoint they're talking with or something like that wasn't working. What type of solutions would you suggest to the development team to handle? Pull something off the SQS. The system I'm trying to talk to isn't down, so I can't deal with that message right now. What type of solutions would you suggest on an SQS to re-trigger that? What's built into that functionality in AWS that you can leverage?
Okay. Okay. I would like to understand.
Are you familiar with DLQ?
Dead letter queues, right?
Yeah.
Yes. It's Amazon SQS. We provide the DLQ, which allows you to designate a separate queue to receive the messages. That's what we do there. First thing, I just want to understand probably the question. I have not personally used that production let me tell you. Okay. So these are the DL queues we actually created, which basically has other queues can target for messaging. These are useful for the debugging of our application and messaging system requirements, and they actually let you isolate the unconsumed messages to determine why they are processing doesn't happen on the time. And once we like to debug the consumer application, or the consumer application is available to consume the messages, you can add this DLQ read-write capabilities, so that one of you can employ once once your customer application is up and running, to move the messages back to the source queue, with just a click button a click button in the AWS SQS console. And also there are a specified number of times which you can define for AWS SQS to move the messages from the format layer to the consumer. If the source if the source that the value is the max received count, then we'll have to define that as well. By using this DLQ, you can isolate the problematic messages and then handle them separately, allowing your main queue to continue the process in processing the message normally.
Okay. Why would you use an SNS topic with SQS? What's the purpose of the SNS topics?
So the relevance topic, basically, the relevance topic basically is created for the many kinds of engagement. So it is basically so it's basically take care of our engagements. So first thing is a procedure, a producer service publishes a message to an SNS topic, and the SNS topic delivers delivers this message to one or more subscribed SQS queues, and the SQS queues buffer and decouples these messages, allowing the multiple consumer services to retrieve and process them independently. So.
What's the purpose of ECRs?
ECS elastic our container registries which generally use it to store all the Docker images that you create, and which can further be used for deploying on the containers which have been containers in the EKS, in our ECS or EKS architectures.
Tell me about how good, or what's your level of experience with Terraform?
Okay. So, when it comes to the Terraform, I have created a few Terraform code bases for the provisioning of different architectures, and the Terraform AWS architectures are the AWS cloud platform and the few of the automation part also. I have written these modules and Terraform which eventually get us in our which are stored in our main.py file. I have created the variable files as well by passing the variables as variables is a parameter, and values to the sources, values to the resources for the parameters group. So I can tell you I have really had a good experience with the Terraform here.
So do you use Terraform on a daily basis, or more just you're familiar with it?
No, I use it on a daily basis. I can tell you for the automation, we have used the Terraform. For versioning, I have been using the Terraform, and for the modularization, I have been using the Terraform. I can tell you very extensively parenting on a daily basis. So we have a separate code-based repository for the infrastructure changes, and whatever changes goes to the AWS cloud platform goes to the Terraform only. So we are posting this all Terraform repositories also in the Bitbucket, and we have separate infrastructure delivery pipelines also. Well, all these Terraform command is get triggered in this case. We want to roll out to a certain infrastructure standpoints.
Jump around a little bit here. Tell me about configuration management. What tools have you used for that?
Okay. For the configuration management, the Ansible we extensively used here, and for the part, in that part, I have wrote a few of the playbooks for the different requirements. So we do not only just use the Ansible for the we used extensively that, but not only Ansible for only the configuration management, but also the other automation related tasks also we have been using Ansible. But for the configuration management process, the most recent playbook that I have been written for the patching our OS patchings for the inventory list of the Linux servers, where we have been using this Ansible. The main workflow of this Ansible that we use was a rule based approach here, where there are different roles get created for the different different roles have been created for all the different flavors of the Linux here, and the main where we basically define the task list on the commands, the Red Hat based systems using the Red Hat based systems, and we have been using the Yum as the package manager here, and all this. The main structure of is where mostly for the security compliance purpose also, we have been using this Ansible here for our infrastructure, and mostly for the disaster management also, where we allows the backups of the system, restoring of the systems, and more these kind of disaster recoveries also. We have worked with Ansible with Ansible.
I'll jump back to actually Costanus. Have you used Salt?
The Salt?
Have you used Salt?
That's like we are using something we are using for the dynamic soil like okay salt. Okay, I have opportunity like with the previous engagements like but mostly at the very few points like I have been used that like I have been done it in the provisioning and the deployments provisioning and deployments. That's it. But for the configuration
If you haven't
management.
used it, if you haven't used it, I was just going to ask, why would you use Salt over Ansible or Puppet or Chef? But if you're not familiar with it, not as familiar with it, not a big deal.
No, okay. So mostly like we do use the salt for the like, mostly for the configuration management, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go back to why would you choose CloudFormation versus Terraform?
Okay. Okay. Let me tell you. Uh, like our okay. In the Riverline case, like our workloads are specific to the AWS, so we can use our cloud formation. But with the kind of flexibility Terraform has offered, like I would say, Terraform works seamlessly with any workloads on a hybrid or any virtual private cloud environment. Like cloud formation is like a native infrastructure code as a service, like which AWS provide, right? So it was very like supports. It's very flexible in supporting the native AWS cloud application or a familiar with this AWS services. But where when it comes to Terraform, it provides the multi-cloud support or and mostly like we can manage the we can manage it really good. So that's the reason like we prefer mostly the Terraform.
Tell me why you would use with Terraform. Why would you use like Helm? What's the purpose of Helm?
Okay, him chart.
And have you
So
used it?
So Helm we use for the orchestrating or like it was a one-step solution for our cluster management. So if you want to be deploy, if you want to do a deployment or anything, like what you can do is to create a Helm chart and just collaborate all the manifest APIs that you that you have created and single place like you're using one Helm chart where there are higher one Helm command like where you can where you can roll out the deployments and the other tasks also that you want to perform that you want to that you want to perform on our Kubernetes environment. So like there are values or there are values or the YAML files that you created for managing this. Like when it comes to the health, also like I have used the Helm chart, Helm for the Kubernetes cluster upgrades, or the API deprecation upgrades and deprecation also. So the main purpose of the Helm is to simplify our the deployment for our deployment and the management of a Kubernetes application, like by providing like it has all providing a like a package management system. Like I can tell you, like that can be used like, whereas to very easily install or update. Um, and manage our Kubernetes application. So that's the reason we prefer Helm much than the Terraform.
What type of on-call management systems have you used for, triggering on-call alerts and doing to a ticketing?
So for the ticketing and all call, like in multiple projects, I've been in multiple, like mostly like at one point, like we are using the service now for the ticket management, and like however like my before projects, like we have been used um, just like we integrated few through our Slack triggerings and all these also for the very specific triggering like messaging tickets management we use the service now.
Okay, well, we're kind of getting to the top of the half hour. What questions do you have for me?
So for me, like what would be the next steps, next steps of the interview, and like what is the process of everything going
Okay.
forward?
So the purpose of this is just to for me is to meet the candidate, make sure they have the initial high-level skills I'm looking for. And then based upon that, then I would schedule a technical interview with my senior leads that then will drill into some of the high-level topics that I've gone into, but then validate, do you have the skills that we just discussed, digging into more technical things, run scenarios by you, and as simple as, server questions, how do you deal with something that's going wrong on a server, what's your troubleshooting process, how do you separate things out. So digging much more in depth on the technical side than I can do, and so that's what we'd be doing next.
Okay. Cool.
Okay?
Yeah. So this is gonna be like after your call, is this gonna be like 2-step or like 1 step and that kind of thing?
It's 2 to 3. I'm not going to try to do. I cannot delve deep enough into these topics to be able to make sure that you've got the skills I'm looking for. So my technical leads will spend some time with you, dive into some topics, really see whether you can answer them the way we're expecting, and then go from there. So.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And usually it's two more rounds. Sometimes I use another person to help with the technical, just to make sure. And then sometimes, depending on where we're at, there's a quick meeting with our CTO for him to, eat. So that's what we'll be moving forward with. I'll look to schedule another round.
Yeah.
About an hour and a half with technical questions.
Sure, Ben. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Yeah. So should I follow up with?
No, I'll do all the following up. So
yeah.
Because it's scheduling some time and stuff. So again, this is an additional one. I don't ever hire on these because it's more to see what the candidate's like.
Yeah.
And then if I feel like they've got what looks to be the technical skills, then we dive into more of a technical interview and start discussing after that.
Sure.
Okay?
Cool, Ben.
Okay. Any other questions for me?
So you gave me heads up, like not much technical. So I have few other technical questions. That's it.
What type of technical questions do you have?
So just not to be quite technical. Like how do you prioritize and manage like competing demands and requests for all the AWS infrastructure resources from different stakeholders in the organization? Like how do you do that?
So I've got a roadmap of what we're trying to, whether it's supporting the application development team or what we need to do from our own standpoint from an operations side, and look to see what's the ROI on those things, what's the criticality that needs to be, and then complexity. So, and then the skills of my engineers, depending on what task we're looking at, I've got to take all those things in consideration to say, okay, which one needs to go in front of each, or we've lived with this for a long time. What's the risk if we don't do it now versus doing something later? And so that's typically I do a high-level task.